Hello and welcome to Stena Match Cup Sweden Stage 3 of the Alpari World Match Racing Tour. Now before we head on to the rainy waters for the semi-finals here in Marstrand, let's take a quick recap of what's happened this season so far. So Phil Robertson and Walker Racing were victorious at Match Race Germany Stage 1, and in Stage 2 it was Bjorn Hansen versus Ian Williams in a gripping finale that saw Hansen edge out the current champion and win the Career Match Cup. Well, this is how the standings for the overall leaderboard on the tour, this is how they look at the moment. Bjorn Hansen and Mekonomen Sailing Team are joint top of the standings on 31 points. That win in Career gifting Hansen an early advantage, but two solid performances from new tour card holder Pierre-Antoine Morvan sees his Van Aglo Sailing Team level on points. It's all still to play for though, with Ian Williams, Laurie Jury and Peter Gilmore all within touching distance. Phil Robertson, Simona Ferrarese and Keith Swinton are still chasing the pack. Well, that brings you up to speed with the standings overall on the tour. But let's take a look at our host regatta here at this one to see what it's like here on the Swedish West Coast. With a population of just 1,000, Marstrand is the smallest town in the county of Västra Götaland, located in the stunning archipelago of the northern Swedish coast. It's a popular holiday destination with its cultural history, its beautiful buildings and its relaxed atmosphere. It is, however, best known for its sailing, with thousands flocking each year to watch Stena Match Cup Sweden. The island itself is free of cars, which adds to its sense of peace. And one of its biggest attractions is the 17th century fortress Karlsten, which took 200 years to complete and has played a big part in the history of the town, although it remained in military use until the early 1990s. So, with lots to see from the Smuggler's Gap to caves in which Stone Age tools have been found, there's plenty to be done in between the sailing here at Stena Match Cup Sweden. That's the picturesque setting here in Marstrand, but let's bring you up to date with what's happened in the racing. Now, to give you an overview of what happened in qualifying, Phil Robertson and Walker Racing ended up leading, which meant that they got the first pick in the quarterfinal draw, and they opted for Ruben Corbett. So let's tell you what happened in those quarterfinals earlier here today. The results were like this. Robertson picked that fellow Kiwi, Ruben Corbett, for his quarterfinal tie, and the Match Race Germany winner was flattered by a 3-0 win in a very tight contest. In the all-Swedish matchup, Bjorn Hansen had the edge over Johnny Berntsson, also winning 3-0. Ian Williams, current holder of the Stena Match Cup Sweden, cruised to a 3-0 victory as well. His win over Pierre-Antoine Morvan, slightly more emphatic though. And the final skipper through to the semis was Peter Gilmore, who finished second in qualifying. He managed to continue his good form against Keith Swinton, beating the fellow Australian 3-1. Well, Simon Shaw, who's a former double world champion and also commentating on the races here, it was very tight during qualifying, Simon, and then in the quarters we saw three skippers just charge through with 3-0 victories. Did we think it would be a bit of a closer contest?
Well, I think for me the scoreline doesn't really reflect the closeness of the battles out there. They were actually very close matches. You know, Ruben Corbett against Phil Robertson, he was ahead in two and in some ways really should have closed out two of those three matches. Just silly mistakes mistakes preventing him doing so. So it was really close. We were pointing the cameras all lift this way and that. We didn't really know which one to follow. The action was all over the racecourse, and to be honest with you, I think we've got more of the same to come.
Well, you've been across all of those races, and there were plenty of flights for you to whet your appetite with. I mean, whose sailing impressed you the most?
Well, I mean, it's hard. I think the main feature of this regatta is really genuinely how consistent all of the teams are performing at the very top of their level. I think the changes, as I suppose, Peter Gilmore, really coming out the blocks firing here. We saw him struggling at the start of Korea and struggling at the start of Germany, coming good in the end, but here he's really come out guns firing. So I think he's one to watch, and Bjorn Hansen, very confident and sailing very, very well. He actually did dispatch Johnny Bernstein reasonably effectively, and it'll be really interesting to see who out of him and Ian Williams comes out of this next semi-final.
Now, we had the quarterfinals, and then it was quite a quick turnaround. We came back, we did the draw for the semis, and as expected, Phil Robertson, who topped qualifying, chose to avoid Ian Williams, the current world champion. He opted for Peter Gilmore instead. Do you think that Ian Williams is still the most feared skipper on this tour?
It's a hard one. I think the answer is probably yes, but really it's a very personal choice, and picking is a notoriously hard science, and people have their different preferences and different strategies, and I think the answer is a probable yes, but it wouldn't have been an easy pick for Phil. I mean, we saw Peter probably sailing at some of the best he's ever sailed, and to have to pick him is a hard one.
We can't forget either that Bjorn Hansen is actually topping the leaderboard standings on the overall tour. He won the Korea Match Cup. He was in the final here last year as well. Him and Ian Williams, I mean, how do you see that one panning out?
To be honest with you, I've absolutely no idea. I think Bjorn perhaps coming into this series perhaps with a slightly better run in the last round and sealing really well, but Ian has been incredible towards the end of last year and the start of this, really the form team, and I think the real strength within Ian Williams from GAC Pindar is really the team in front of him as well as himself. There's Bill Hardesty, a double, triple, God knows how many world champion sailor, an excellent asset to that team, and perhaps that's where GAC Pindar as a team edge it over Mekonomen sailing team and Bjorn Hansen.
Thanks, Simon. Well, those semi-final races are going to get underway shortly. We'll let you get back up to the commentary booth to do your duties. But first, we must recap that 4 skippers here are battling it out to get into the final. And this is what it is going to be meaning to them. It's all about winning the Stena Swedish Match Cup.
Williams got pace. Hansen claiming he's avoiding. Williams claiming he was fouled. Here comes Gilmore. It's 2-2. Great set. Remember, this is do or die. Williams sailing amazingly. Williams wins Stena Match Cup Sweden.
So in 2011, it was a Bjorn Hansen versus Ian Williams final, and it isn't going to be that here this year, although it is for the semi-finals. They're not going to face each other in the final itself. Here are how those semi-finals are looking. Phil Robertson, who topped qualifying, chose to go up against Peter Gilmore, who is already beaten in the final flight of qualifiers, whilst current champion Ian Williams is left to face Bjorn Hansen, the home favourite here. A repeat of the final from the Korea Match Cup and the final from last year. So without further ado, we will go on to the water for the semi-final races. Simon Shaw will be your race commentator.
And we're looking forward to an excellent afternoon of racing here at the Stena Match Cup Sweden on this Alpari World Match Racing Tour. The first of our semi-final matchups, Ian Williams against Bjorn Hansen. An epic battle, I think, we're going to ensue between these two skippers, perhaps the two most informed skippers here at the Stena Match Cup, so it'll be interesting to see how it goes. I'm joined in the commentary booth by Torvar Mursky. So Torvar, obviously perhaps not the opener at the Stena Match Cup for yourself here, and you find yourself in the commentary booth. Do you want to just talk us through quickly, how you found this regatta this year?
As always, it's been a great pleasure to come to Marstrand. It's always so nice to sail in front of all the spectators here that just love sailing so much. This natural theatre for sailing is great. We all enjoy it. This year it didn't go so well for us, and like you said, I'm here in the commentary booth. We missed out an account back to make the quarters, and now I get to experience this, which is a nice change.
Yeah, well, here we are. So we're actually joining the racing live now. We can see Ian Williams and Bjorn Hansen already in the pre-starting sequence.
These guys in the final last year, so definitely Phil Robertson getting to choose to race Peter Gilmore, which leaves these two favourites here to race each other. So I'm not really sure who's the form skipper. I'd probably put Ian as the favourite, and Bjorn as someone who just is super experienced and won this event before. So tight one, Shorzy.
It's gonna be interesting. I have to say, I mean, Bjorn's win over Ian in Korea perhaps coming into play here. Already, we're only on event 3 in this history between these two skippers on this 2012 Alpari World Match Racing Tour. It looks to me with Bjorn off to the right at the moment, perhaps he has in the ascendancy in the manoeuvring.
Well, we just see here Ian's getting behind. There's contact. That's a big mistake by Ian Williams there. That's going to be Bjorn Hansen getting the advantage off that, keeping the right there. Ian trying to turn these boats. These boats have no rudder lock, so you can actually spin them on the dime. Ian thought he could make it behind Bjorn, and there's a collision there, and it could have even done a little bit of damage.
Yeah, we saw Ian, the master of that turn down against Bjorn in Korea in the finals, managing to turn what was a easy lose position into a super strong position, but it didn't work for him here. He's got that awful start in a finals, a best of 5 sail-off. He's suddenly finding himself a penalty down, and he hasn't even got off the line in the first match.
It's quite consistent wins here, and so a penalty is going to be quite hard to offload. I can't really see it being easy to extend a long way in front to be able to do this penalty. So definitely a big advantage to Bjorn with that penalty there, by that mistake by Ian.
Okay, pushing hard, pushing hard. Full speed.
35 burn.
Full speed. Way flat. Can we go more bang, or just getting a lot of...
1 minute.
There's a little bit of bang on
20 burn. 7.
No, on.
4, 3, 2, 20 burn. 25 burn.
Have we got the time to go here, Shorzy?
Coming up hard.
15, 20 burn.
All the way up on the wind, guys, on the wind.
This looks like final approach.
Yeah, I just heard Bill Hardesty saying I think they got 15 to burn on board Ian Williams' boat. So 15 below, and he is the trail boat, so Bjorn with a little bit of time to waste, but it looks to me that Bjorn has that left-hand side, and we've seen in the lower section of the racecourse that left-hand side paying off quite consistently.
Racing, guys, full speed upwind.
Ian rolling off towards the right. We're going to see a split tack start. Bjorn taking the pin as we come up to start time.
It looks like advantage to Bjorn to me, with a little bit more speed off the line there. Ian just struggling, as you can see on the camera here, to get round the anchor chain on the start boat there. I'd say little advantage Bjorn Hansen going to the left. We think the favoured side, and a little bit more speed too.
It just doesn't go anywhere, this boat, it feels.
Ian, a very momentum-based sailor, seeing a huge split considering the ramifications of where they are. I think Ian perhaps already thinking with the penalty down, he's having to throw something, into this race. And I'm just nervous. I heard Ian just there talking a little about the boat, saying he was really struggling to get it going there. I think him feeling that perhaps they hadn't got the setup exactly right, or Ian sometimes can be his own worst enemy in these situations, and we'll see. Hopefully he can hold it together, keep calm and collected, keep sailing that boat fast most crucially, and hopefully come back into this match and give us one of those close ding-dong Stena Match Cup, Alpari World Match Racing Tour matches that we know these two are capable of.
I'm not crossing him.
Bob coming here.
No.
Anyway, it's a lot of distance.
It's roughly about, okay? What are you thinking at this cross?
That's to him. He may cross now.
He's lifting.
He may cross.
So Torvar, what do you think? They both are coming back together. Who's in the ascendancy?
It looks to me like Bjorn is powered up and fast here. If he gets this cross here, it's going to be a big moment in the race, I think.
I don't know, I'm not just going to carry on.
So I can hear it in my ear. He thinks he might get a small piece.
Negative.
Ooh.
Matters not. Bjorn's
He's
tacked on
desperate
his
to
lee
hang in.
bow.
That's a
Attacking now.
momentum change to Ian, I'd
Yeah,
say.
copy that.
That's a
Short
big
one then.
moment for Ian there to be able to force Bjorn off to attack, and Ian holding the right with a piece of Bjorn.
The question mark, I guess, is as they come up this final section of the course, what does the breeze have to say about it? Where's going to be the best pressure on the race course? We have seen the left and the sort of mid-left really strong in all the qualification rounds and the quarterfinals, but that very upper left sometimes struggling just underneath the castle. And as we come back here, the boat's coming back together. It looks like that left-hand side has, you know, held in there, and perhaps a small advantage back to Bjorn.
Bjorn is not ducking behind. Might be a bit cross here. See if he's gained out of that left. He's not turning. I think he's going for the cross.
There he is, inches in it, but he makes that cross. And as we well know, towards the top of the race course, the power of that right-hand side is strong. That gives you control into the top mark. And Bjorn there, sailing fast, sailing smooth, perhaps getting the slightly better of the breeze. And he's now ahead. And Ian, let's not forget, incurring that penalty in the pre-start, with it all to do in this semi-final matchup.
Okay. Yeah, I think so.
Probably about 10, 12 knots of wind. They're on the Genoas, the bigger jibs, fully hiked out, sailing up towards the grandstand here. All the spectators are watching close as they get close to this top mark. You see Bjorn leaning in there and sort of pumping one of those ropes. That's the backstay, and that's a sign that he's got a little bit more wind. He's had to adjust his sails to flatten them off, and pulling that backstay on pulls the mast back and flattens that sail. So a sign that Bjorn's in better wind there.
And that's this is what we were talking about, that upper left just underneath the castle here. We've often seen it soften up in this area of the racecourse, and I think that's another small gauge to Bjorn. As we come up to this mark, it is Bjorn Hansen leading Ian Williams around Mark 1 in this first semi-final.
Okay, thank you.
And as the game moves to that downwind, it'll be the trailing boat's opportunity to try and attack, try and throw that dirty air onto the sails of Bjorn Hansen, and see if Ian can get back level, get back into contention in this matchup.
It's a good hoist by Ian there, just looking at the camera. You're allowed to hit the marks as well. They're sailing a lot closer to marks. There's a good crew work, putting the pole up, getting the jib down quickly, and the spinny can pop, you know, right on the mark there. Bjorn, Ian's still got a lot, is in this race, and Bjorn's got a lot to do to defend this downwind.
Just going to come up a little bit towards us there.
Ian's saying he's on a match, so that meaning if Bjorn Hansen jibes in, we'll jibe with him and hopefully look to attack his breeze. That's
left, wasn't it?
the type of mechanistic, strategic decision that Ian Williams is famous for getting right.
Hold on that.
Okay, fine.
I think it's square. So matching here, yeah?
Yeah.
Get on the breeze.
Let's get down now a little.
Got good breeze right looking up.
Okay.
Close, huh?
Yeah, we'll be right on him here.
So there's Ian Williams. He thinks he's going to be right on him out of this jibe. He's done a nice job of positioning his boat down on the line of Bjorn Hansen. That puts him in a good position to attack as they go.
A little hot.
So there's Ian Williams through the jibe.
Should be on him.
The question is, where is Bjorn Hansen? There he is.
We just heard from Ian's team saying should be on him, so they might have a chance of being able to get Bjorn Hansen's air and maybe being able to roll over the top, which is the big moment for attacking on the downwind.
And we have seen earlier today that actually quite a hard thing to get right, that roll.
It's
being
not
quite
happening,
hard
is
to
it?
achieve.
Not this time.
No.
Bjorn has held on the jibe and is looking comfortable to lead around this bottom gate. No. Now it's just a test of crew work and to minimise the loss for Ian and to set up for the next upwind and attack and be close to Bjorn for the upwind.
Low chance, isn't it? I think we should take it. Jibing here. And then just confirm splitting on the gate, yeah?
Here comes in, he's on starboard, he has the right of way. I think Bjorn should cross here, but
it's close.
Split on the gate, guys. Yeah.
Ian's going to a different gate to Bjorn. We just heard split on the gate. So whatever Bjorn does, Ian's going to do the opposite. Looks like Bjorn might be going left gate, not sure.
Jibing here.
I think that's spinnaker in the water for Bjorn.
Okay, let's go drop.
Yep, Bjorn's put the spinnaker under the bow. This is a big mistake for Bjorn.
So has that gone over to
Yeah, he's had to throw it over the bow. There we go, he's just fixed it. That's quite a good work by the bowman to pull that rope out from underneath the boat. If you leave that underneath you, you're going to be behind pretty quick.
So a good recovery from Bjorn and his team. We talked a little about the possible differences in the levels between the teams as well as the skippers. There's always a lot of talk about the rivalries between the skippers, and you know, for me, Beal Hardesty a big asset to GAC Pindar in this matchup, trying to keep the Matchy sailing the right way around the racecourse. Ian good at outsourcing that type of decision to Bill, who's a very strong natural sailor, and leaving the computation and positioning to Ian on the helm.
It's a good thing to have these two bottom marks. It means that when you go around the bottom, if you just have one and you follow around behind, if it's just one, you don't really have much of a chance. But with two, you get this opportunity that Ian has had right here to split, maybe go around at the same time and have a chance to be, ahead. So this is I think Ian has made the most of the situation here, and I think we're going to see quite a close cross or situation come up here, maybe even a lead change.
It's hard to see, isn't it? I think in the early stages of that separation, it looked like Ian had the better of the pressure, but now he's back onto port. I think it's Bjorn that's, getting the lifts in underneath the cliffs. There's a small sort of convergence running down the shore, so nice pressure over this side. I think Bjorn's crossing. The question is, by how much, and is Ian still in this match?
Oh, here's a big moment, Shawsey.
So Ian Williams, he's going for a big dial. That's a big dial. He's holding the small contact there with the jib.
If there's contact, there's very risky for Bjorn there. Ian on starboard is allowed to sort of dial down, take them out, and to hold them out. Bjorn's going for starboard, port starboard here again. That one should be green flag.
So that's 2 greens. And Ian has the lead. He has the right and he has the lead, so excellent sailing.
That was all created by the bottom mark there, that split.
So I think actually the penalty there offsetting, so Bjorn I think incurring a penalty in that move and that offsetting the penalty that Ian had.
There we go.
So there we see neutral penalties.
So Ian's gone from being behind to ahead.
What's your thought of the cross?
Oh, sorry, we missed that.
Okay.
I think the umpires must have just taken the yellow flag down there just to confuse us in the commentary booth.
At some point.
Well, Bjorn was definitely at risk there, and I wouldn't be surprised if he did pick one up, but it looks like they've green flagged it. But Ian is now ahead.
Here we go, tacking.
2, 1, and press.
I think there, Tora, we can see 2 umpire boats. I think one has a yellow flag and one doesn't.
Just got to do something about this penalty, okay?
2, 1, and press.
So Bjorn throwing the kitchen sink here, Ian Williams, as we come up towards the top of the course. It's tacks galore.
Should see Ian tack to protect the right here, It's going to be an interesting situation. Bjorn's tacking out as well.
On to port and build.
Bjorn's going for everything he can, but that one's going to be green flagged again.
That's a green.
I think Bjorn's attacking back short before the ley line again, so he's a very aggressive manoeuvre there. If Ian's on ley line, it's pretty safe for him. But with the new rules here, it gives a lot of power to the boat behind just to sort of attack right in at the mark. So if Bjorn has got any room on this ley line to windward of Ian, he might be able to ruffle Ian's feathers and get inside him at Ian at the top mark. You can see Ian slowing down here just to protect this top mark.
So I think the key play at this point, Ian Williams making that big strategic decision. Am I going to get far enough ahead to be able to offset my penalty? And he's decided no. He's got into the 2 lengths and now he's setting a trap. So Bjorn Hansen at this point has no room at the mark. And what Ian Williams is doing is trying to position to catch out Bjorn Hansen and either offset his penalty or alternatively offload one onto Bjorn and try and make them go neutral.
Okay, and Bjorn has protected himself quite well there, just being patient, staying behind. Ian has got a little bit too advanced in the mark and decided he has to go around it. So the next game will start after rounding this mark, I think, now, Shorzy.
So Ian Williams coming right down. If Bjorn does a nice job of his positioning here, he will force Ian to round. He ends up outside. It may be that Ian tries to get Bjorn to trap him one or other side. So there, Bjorn trying desperately not to get overlapped. You see the Alpari logo there cutting through the water. Now Ian Williams doing an excellent job there.
Cut. Just got to lock him here, okay, guys? Got to lock him in here.
Ian's talking about locking. That's just stopping Bjorn from being able to turn behind his transom.
Okay, go full speed now.
Ian wants to hold Bjorn up and away from the finishing line, sail them in the wrong direction, and maybe be able to do his penalty turn, which is now that they're on the downwind leg attack. We might see Ian offload his penalty here.
That's complete. Go hoist. Into a jibe, okay, guys. It's going to be a jibe. Go hoist, pull it up, please.
That was quite a good spot for Ian to take his penalty. He's done the tack and he's not ahead, but he's in a very powerful position on Bjorn, so he might be able to roll here.
So let's see what happens. Ian Williams sets his chute. He's rolling his dirty air down onto Bjorn Hansen.
He's luffing.
Bjorn Hansen responding with a very aggressive luff. Ian's chute is set, Bjorn Hansen's isn't set. I think this is the race right here, folks, as Ian Williams comes across the top of Bjorn Hansen. Bjorn Spinnaker still not fulling. Now can Ian get the jibe in? You can see Bjorn Hardesty fanning the main, trying to waft dirty air onto the front of the luff of Bjorn Hansen's Spinnaker. The Spinnaker is still drawing. Now Ian Williams has to be able to get this jibe in and try and get air stable one side or the other of Bjorn Hansen to be able to convert this into a win down to that bottom finish.
Bjorn's matching this jibe here. Bjorn's actually behind. Ian's in front and offloaded his penalty bit, but Bjorn is jibed on him and is trying to take Ian Williams' air now. And I think Bjorn will be able to roll ahead, but maybe not be able to get in front enough to make the finishing line ahead. I say advantage Ian Williams here.
Oh, for sure. I think Ian Williams doing a nice job of trying to position for air behind out of that. We can see there, I think he's already got that clear air.
Here we go. Bjorn with a little bit more speed here from rolling over the top of Ian. Can he get far enough in front to be able to make this jibe to go back to the finishing line at the end? We're about halfway down the course now, so Bjorn and Ian are doing a lot of work now, pumping those sails just to get pure speed and try and get that little advantage ahead.
Bjorn Hansen actually doing quite a nice job of extending a little bit there. Ian Williams still with a strong position. He should be able to hold Bjorn from crossing his line.
I think it's a big move to be able to make that cross there by Bjorn, to jibe over, turn the sort of 40 degrees onto the other tack in front of him. As we can see in the camera here, it's about a metre distance, but Ian still would be able to just put his bow down if Bjorn tries to jibe. Here we go.
He's done it. He's made the jibe. Now can Ian Williams get up to attack again? It's lead change galore on this final run.
I was really impressed by Bjorn's work on that run there, pumping that mainsail, getting that little bit of extra speed. I didn't think it was that easily possible, and Bjorn just showed us how it was done.
Wait up if you can, guys. Okay, coming up, coming up, coming up.
Here comes Bjorn Hansen, a very aggressive luff on Ian Williams. I'm surprised Bjorn putting himself at this level of risk. That a very aggressive luff.
No, got to come down with him, Okay, got to get the
Advantage
down,
Bjorn
guys,
Hansen,
down.
so he has advanced here. He's got great speed. He's put Ian Williams straight into the wind. Ian's slow here. Bjorn taking a length and a half lead out of that little luffing duel.
So excellent sailing from Bjorn Hansen. He read that well. He had the umpires, the measure of how they were going to call that. He went for a very aggressive luff that could have put him at risk. And now again, another opportunity for Ian Williams to attack. Both boats jibing. Bjorn Hansen now significantly ahead, but he may be in the dirt of Ian Williams. This perhaps the last chance for Ian to get back into this match.
You'd say on that jibe there that Bjorn, he should be able to hold comfortably in front without getting rolled, but Ian doing quite a good job to threaten it. And this one, I feel like Bjorn's got really good control here, and it's going to be tough for Ian to pull anything back now.
Yeah, I think Ian now just rolling into a jibe. In some ways, I'm surprised to see Bjorn match. But there we go. Both boats coming out. Bjorn still clear air in front. We can see Ian Williams' position for one final attempt at this right-hand side.
He's going to get down, isn't he?
But I think Ian Williams running out of room to attack here on this run.
Yeah. Smashed in sailing.
What a race.
Trying to count back, but I think maybe 3 or 4 lead changes. The boat's never really getting more than a couple of lengths apart. So excellent sailings from these two top skippers in this first of these semi-final matchups.
Really impressive work by Bjorny on that last downwind to roll over and make the jibe in front, and Ian Williams to get ahead again when he was behind.
Yeah, it was incredible, and you know the penalty offload at the top, all very sensible, all very well executed, and it was almost like a duel between people getting it right, with very little criticism to level at either skipper off the back of that match. Excellent sailing by both, but it was Bjorn Hansen that crosses the line ahead from the Mecca-Nolan sailing team. First blood to the Swedes, to the home team. I'm sure the Swedish crowds on the cliff tops and on the top of the castle, they'll be pleased with that win. We can now look forward to our second quarter-final matchup coming to you soon. I think hopefully we will get word from some of the skippers following the conclusion of that race. It would be very interesting probably to hear to both skippers just to see really how they saw it. I heard some quite sort of disappointment oozing out of the crews with Ian Williams, and so if we can cut to Ian Williams and just really get his take on it, that would be fantastic. So I think we're joining, Bjorn Hansen.
Yeah, that was an interesting race. Ian misjudged the start a little bit, or in the pre-start, when he tried to go behind us and he hit us about 1 meter from the stern and got a penalty. He got a little bit of the initiative in the start though, so he got the right-hand side that we would have been quite happy to have, but we managed to pass him on the first upwind and actually were ahead all the way down to the gate. We were discussing which gate mark to go to, but we had lost on the one on Coen side all the day, so we said that let's go on the Marstrand side, and suddenly he gained on the other side, of course. But yeah, it was an interesting situation at the top mark too, so he managed to get his penalty turned down, and after that we just rolled him on the way down to the finish line, and the guys did a fantastic job there again, and yeah, feels great.
So there Interesting word from Bjorn. Now some words hopefully from Ian Williams.
The handles spin and those top ones, which means the handle's in. I can't pull it. Pulling the whole.
Yeah, well, disappointing to lose. Struggling a little bit with the boat. There's something with the rudder. It doesn't really turn as well as the others, and then when we get in those down speed situations, it seems to stall out. So that's a bit frustrating for us, but we just need to deal with that. Maybe keep it a little looser, not to get in those close situations so much, and I think we can you know, take Bjorn down. So we've come back before, and we've got to do it again.
Great, thanks.
Not an interesting vibe from Ian Williams there, Shawsey.
Yeah, I mean, it has been known, you know, in the past that Ian, I think, struggling with the boat, and he, you know, I think he really likes to have a good, steady, responsive helm, and you know, obviously struggling with the boat spinning out. It's interesting, and you know, I hope it doesn't like affect his game enough to really, you know, affect the outcome of this match for him.
I felt like there was a lot of positives in that race for Ian. Obviously, that last downwind when Bjorn managed to get in front wasn't good for him, but I felt like he came back from a bad position to get in front, and I feel like he's still getting very much in this, and I felt like he just had a bit of a bad vibe about the boat and his team, or something he was down about, and that's not so good going into the next races.
Yeah. I mean, certainly for us in the commentary booth, we said both teams with almost nothing to be negative about, and I, you know, I think we both stand by that. So an excellent matchup between those two skippers. We now have Lindsay Hooper, who is on board with Phil Robertson as a precursor to the matchup against Peter Gilmore. So over to you, Lindsay.
Simon, yeah, I'm with Phil Robertson. It's blustery and rainy conditions out here. How does that suit your style of racing?
Yeah. They've turned it on today, Sweden, so we're definitely looking forward to it. No, it's definitely wet and cold now, but it's nothing we're not really used to. Do a lot of sailing in the rain at home, so yeah, might play into our hands.
Well, you've matched up with Ruben many times before. What's the tactic here?
We're sailing against Peter, not Ruben.
Oh, sorry, Peter, sorry.
Yeah, no, we've matched up with him heaps now. He's definitely a tough opponent and will be interesting. I think this race, we've just made our call at the moment. We're going to go split tack off the boat. Don't tell him we said this, okay? And hopefully no one's listening and going to tell him. And yeah, just playing the right, because we think it's definitely a little bit shifty, but they're going both ways. So it's going to be a very close match, I predict.
Are you drawing on that memory as well of the final flight in the qualifiers, because you beat him there?
Yeah, we did beat him there, and we had a good battle with him in Germany as well. So we're no stranger to fighting Peter. We lost him at the Monsoon Cup 3-2, and we beat him 3-2 in Germany. And I think we've had the better of him in the round robins lately. But yeah, he's no slouch, and we'll see what happens.
We wish you all the best. Good luck out there, and my footwear isn't very good, but yours is looking quite sturdy. Back to you, Simon.
Thanks very much, Lindsay. So certainly me and Torvar like just turning a chuckle there with the interview with Phil. Very, you know, you couldn't find a nicer guy really, considering how combative and aggressive this sport is.
I just love Phil's attitude. You know, the way he has his confidence, his hands on his hip and standing up straight, ready to race Peter Gilmore, a 4-time world champion. And, you know, quite a contrast from the last interview we saw with Ian, and so it's going to be interesting to see what Phil says after the first race or something like that.
Well, quite. I mean, you know, Phil there, as we said, we both commented on the stance as well, the good hands on the hips. He's ready to go, and he's always upbeat, you know, win or lose, Phil Robertson. So, you know, a real ambassador for the sport, and I think a great addition to this 2012 Alpari World Match Racing Tour.
Absolutely.
I mean, we see these guys came up against each other in Germany, and what was a really interesting matchup between the two. You know, Peter Gilmore just struggling really to find his form, and you know, Phil Robertson, you know, really bringing it. Then he lost it, and Peter Gilmore came back. It went to 2-2, and then it went all the way to that final match, and Phil Robertson just managed to close it out. So, for me, the big difference coming into Match Cup Sweden compared to the rest of the tour has been Peter Gilmore actually coming into that qualifying round with some real form.
Absolutely. Peter Gilmore, I think, really enjoys these boats. I mean, going back to Phil Robertson as well, Phil Robertson is leading the ranking so far in this regatta. He chose Peter Gilmore, and he's racing against Ian Williams, Bjorn Hansen and Peter Gilmore, who have all won this event before. So for Phil Robbins to have that confidence and to have that going into this regatta is really cool. This matchup against Peter Gilmore.
Yeah, no, I'm certainly looking forward to it. Very different teams. We can see, you know, the young, you know, sprightful enthusiasm of Phil Robertson and his young bunch of guys. They have sailed together for 5 or 6 years as a solid unit, so that's certainly not going to show up. That there's certainly no inexperience there, particularly sailing together. But they haven't necessarily been here before. They are sailing against, you know, an absolute icon of our sport. And, you know, both you and I have sailed up against Peter, and there's been times, certainly in the early stages of our career, where, you really feel the sort of the pressure of that moment. And for me, Phil Robertson's, you know, smiley, happy-go-lucky attitude, perhaps, you know, a credit to him in this situation. I don't think he's in any way fazed by anyone or anything, frankly, and I think we've got a lot to look forward to. The breeze has changed direction slightly, and as you can see from the cameras and from that interview with Lindsay and Phil, there's plenty of rain around. And I think we're just waiting for confirmation from the race committee that they're ready to get underway and start this semi-final. So I think we're hoping to join in a second Craig Mitchell, the Alpari World Match Racing Tour Director. He's on the committee boat now. I can see him there in his shiny white oilies and life jacket up on the bow. So Craig Mitchell, perhaps an update from you. Where are we with racing, and how soon are we going to get going again?
Well, we're going to be getting going right now. The 6 minute, although we've just taken down the 7 minute, which means we're within 1 minute to the 5. So things are actually going to be getting on with this Gilmore and Robertson first match.
Brilliant. Well, that's something to look forward to. So just coming up for the 5 minutes in this race. So both crews going through their final preparations, their checks. They'll be sailing their ley lines. Judging the time and distance. Most teams have some sort of pre-start routine where they'll sail along the ley line, they'll sail along the line, and they'll do a time run back to that start line just to really see exactly what's going on and how the timings relate to make sure they're all dialed in as a team. So we're in our final stages. There's the 5 minute gun. And we go into this all-important matchup. Peter Gilmore of Yanmar Racing coming up against Phil Robertson of New Zealand, Wacker Racing Team. We've seen this rivalry develop over the 2012 Alpari World Match Racing Tour. So far, we're going to see this rivalry unfold again going forwards from now. So Peter Gilmore will be entering from the port side. Phil Robertson will be entering from the starboard side. And we're going to be into a pre-start any moment now. 30 seconds to go.
Pretty good.
Okay.
Here we go. Both boats coming up to entry. That's the 4 minute gun. It's showtime.
Little motivation from Phil there to his boys.
He is definitely a lot faster here, eh? Stand by.
Here we go. We are going to have a dial up.
2, 1, spinning.
You can see that weather's really rolled in. That sort of misty look through the lens.
Yeah,
it's not cloud, it's all rain.
Happy.
As we zoom down from the cameras on the castle, we see there on the onboard footage, you can see the rain falling down. That won't phase these guys, will be so in the zone, so focused on their sailing. I'm not even sure they'll notice it's raining. Such is the attention to detail really required at this level of sport.
Just when the rain hits, I think we've got a little bit less wind now than the last race, probably around 6 knots. You can see Phil Robertson doing a pretty standard job holding Peter Gilmore out. Peter Gilmore's going to try and tack around over Phil Robertson's bow here, and Phil Robertson just going to tack underneath and hold them out, hopefully, for the pre-start. Phil's in a pretty powerful position here, I think. We'll see how if Peter Gilmore can roll over the top of Phil Robertson.
He's got some good positioning, but has he got the speed?
Up in 5, 3,
As you said
2,
there,
1,
Phil Robertson
and
very
up,
slow, and I think Peter Gilmore a little faster. And perhaps able, we'll see how it plays out, but perhaps able to actually get across the front and round the front of Phil Robertson.
Just coming down a touch here, guys.
2 minutes 20. I think we're going to see them set up for the line back to the race back to the line at about maybe a minute 15. Peter Gilmore's trying to roll over the top of Phil here and get a jibe in. So if he can do that, then Peter's in a powerful position. If not, Phil's in a powerful position. So we'll just see how this eventuates here.
Coming up.
This is a hard one. There's nothing worse than being in that windward berth and you're thinking, I've nearly got it, but the time's ticking down all the time.
Okay, we just heard him there. Peter's got the jibe in.
Go back. Coming down. Time.
Still a little bit early to go back to the line. Peter's just positioning himself. I quite like Peter's position here, though.
Yeah, fast. All the time here. I almost want to jive inside him here, eh? What side do you like, sorry? Still like the right. Okay, ready to jive.
Okay, jiving.
Just faking him into it. Coming up now. Yeah, copy. 120.
Easy.
So he's just pretty tight late here, eh? Winding up into attack here. Let's go. Wait.
Time, Fuku.
Yeah, 3.
So we see Phil Robertson circling up into a high push position.
We're going to be struggling to get a good start here, guys, so just speed all the time, okay? 3.
I think it's advantage. Peter Gilmore here. Peter Gilmore's going to set up to start to leeward. Phil Robertson's got a bit of work to do to get back into this. He's going to have to. He said in his interview he wanted the right start and tack off. This is probably what he's setting up for here, Shorzy.
I think so. I think he is looking for that right, but for me, you know, he's a little far away with his placement. Pretty much full speed back to the line.
Time to boat here. He's probably 10. Stand by. Okay. Coming down now.
Now here comes Phil Robertson. He's going to try and drive Peter Gilmore down off that lay line.
Okay. Winding up in 5.
Just to try and open up enough space above him so he can make a start. His problem is in the top right corner. 25 seconds to go. It's not a huge amount of time. And I think both boats almost racing from here. I can hear Phil calling for final trim.
Does Phil have enough gauge to windward to be able to hold in there? Does Phil Robertson have enough gauge to hold in there to windward of Peter Gilmore? I think Phil Robertson's going to have to tack off, and it's going to be an advantage to Peter Gilmore.
You can see there, Peter Gilmore having to sail a little way down the line, so that could be a help to Phil Robertson as that gap opens up a little.
Just a little on pressure here. Really struggling to find my angle, Jimmy.
Sounds like Phil Robertson's struggling there, and he's going to have to tack off it, and it seems like Peter Gilmore's just got a nice start there, good speed, and is going to be able to squeeze Phil Robertson off. Robertson's actually being able to hold in there a bit longer than I expected, so there he goes. But it is close. Him being able to hold in there for that 20 seconds off the line is a good sign that he had a reasonable speed, not totally lost the start or anything.
Yeah, I think we'll give the start to Peter, but it's still nothing really to pick between these two boats as we come up this first beat.
Bash the jib, Fuku.
Yeah, you just any info is good.
Here Peter asking Safuku on the bow to go up and give the sail a bit of a bang. Use these two little indicator cloths, the telltales on the front of the sail, just to help the helmsman find the angle in the jib.
That's the rain, Shorzy.
And in the wet, they stick on tight to the sail, and the only way of clearing them sometimes is to give them a little bang. I suspect with this amount of rain, it's somewhat of a lost cause, but I can't admire Peter for perhaps he wants them just reset in a better position.
I don't think I'd be asking my bowman to run right up the front to bang that. So Peter really must use them like live and day, have to have them sorted. So interesting that you've got Fuku to run up there and do that.
2, 1, and up. Okay, winding up.
From this angle, it looks like Phil Robertson actually has a good piece of Peter Gilmore there.
Yeah,
certainly that camera angle suggested that, and as we look out on the racecourse, I think for me Peter's still with a small edge out of the window, but let's see as the boats come together. All these things can be misleading.
Any more path coming?
Ooh. Close cross we've heard from Peter Gilmore's
Okay.
team.
I can see the bow of.
Stand by. Helms down.
You can see the bow slowly wandering up there from Phil Robertson. You can't blame him for that, but I think Peter probably had a small cross, and Phil Robertson working really hard just to get a piece of Peter Gilmore.
It's quite important just to be able to get that little piece. If Peter makes that
you've gotta
crossover
get
on the
some
left
pressure,
side, it's an advantage to Gilmore. So Robertson doing well just to have that chunk and force Peter Gilmore to tack off.
We can't tack this light.
And for me, Phil Robertson sailing towards slightly better pressure than Peter Gilmore. It looks a little bit lighter just in under the shore right now. We have seen this side favoured generally, but right now I think perhaps Phil Robertson in slightly better breeze. So when they come back together, it'll be interesting to see who's where.
It's really tough to pick here, Shawsy, especially with this rain. It's just changed up the weather a little bit, and I'd say the sailors are not quite exactly sure where's best either.
Certainly that. Looking at the angles on the water, it looks like they're both really struggling and both down pressure.
Okay.
Peter Gilmore still looks relatively strong, and I think perhaps Peter Gilmore now getting slightly the better of the pressure. His bow wave looks a little bigger to me than Phil Robertson.
Yeah.
Still very, very close between these two teams as we get up to the midsection in this first beat.
Happy crossing, happy crossing.
There we go. We heard it from Gilmore's team. They're happy crossing, so they've made some gains on this left side. That's a big moment for Gilmore's team, and Robertson's going to have a lot to do. He's just going to have to minimise the damage, I'd say, and try and be close on Gilmore's transom for that downwind.
So the moment that happens, you know, the goals on board Phil Robertson's boat change. It's now just all about staying tight, staying close as we come up towards this top mark, so we can be on Peter Gilmore's button around the mark in a great position to attack.
What's your weight?
Probably got about a length advantage to Gilmore's team around the mark at this stage, I think. Robertson just struggling to find the wind on that last shift.
Yeah. I just can't. You've got to keep talking to me, Thierry. I've got no. Okay.
So both boats
Stand
ending
by.
up off to the right of the race course, and here comes Peter Gilmore of Yanmar Racing. He's coming out that right side. He has the lead. Phil Robertson electing French style to tack underneath the line of Peter Gilmore as we come up to this top mark, trying to maximise the efficiency of his rounding. He knows there's no point to attack the inside of Peter Gilmore in a situation like this when he's up that close to the ley line and he's that far behind.
I agree.
Gilmore's just done a nice job in this last section of the top mark and has really made Robertson hurt. It's going to be really tough for Robertson here just to pull those shifts back in and just get tuned up for that next downwind.
Trim, Thierry, trim.
So I totally agree with you, Torvald. Certainly
Nice work.
at the top of
Good
that
puff here,
top
isn't
of
there,
that
Fred?
course,
Just here now?
we was all neck and neck for a while, and sort of somewhere from nowhere, Peter Gilmore and Yanmar Racing, they've snuck out what, a 4 or 5 boat length lead over Phil Robertson of Wacker Racing. And as we come onto this first run, it is definite advantage to this Japanese team. They've been sailing well all this regatta. Both these teams have, frankly, but Peter Gilmore, I think, finding an extra gear compared to the previous two Alpari World Match Racing Tour Championships, and that extra gear in evidence now as he schools Phil Robertson at the top of this beat, really, in boat placement, angles and choices, and now leads by a clear 4 boat lengths as we come down this first run.
Yeah, I really like Peter Gilmore's chat to his team on the boat. Even when the situation is close, it just sounds like he's in control and, you know, making simple, clear decisions and really giving confidence to the guys. And they've just done a great job with that last section there.
Yeah, okay, we want to lead the jibe now, guys. Yeah. Okay, jibing.
Keep going.
Yeah.
Gilmore racing first, the pair to leave it out of that right-hand side.
Typically when the boats are closer, the trailing boat will match the jibe. You can see Phil Robertson here, happy to let Peter Gilmore jibe off first, and Phil Robertson has gone off a little bit more in a different direction, hoping that he can pick up something different to Peter Gilmore and catch back up. I can't really see it happening over there for Phil Robertson right now.
No, for me it looks a little hit and hope. I think Phil Robertson was just a little down pressure actually at the point that Peter jibed, and I just suspect, I know Phil sails quite naturally, he's quite expansive, he's not afraid to take risks or defy convention, and for me, Phil Robertson there just, you know, rolling past that opportunity to attack just because it didn't feel right and didn't suit where their boat was at that exact moment. And in some respects, in these lighter conditions, as you say, Torvar, that maybe not a silly thing to do.
Okay.
So Phil Robertson has gone all the way to the ley line to the bottom mark, so Phil Robertson will not need to do any further jibes.
Jibe with that.
Whereas Gilmore, you can just hear him saying he's jibing. He's got to do an extra 2 manoeuvres, so maybe Phil Robertson's just trying to minimise the manoeuvres and just catch up a little bit going into this final section of the bottom mark.
In some ways, a wise strategy. It does look to me to have paid off a little as the boats come back towards each other.
I don't think Gilmore had a very good jibe then. His spinnaker struggled to fill with air. You know, when you come out of that, you try and roll your weight, throw the rig through the air, and it just didn't quite pop and get the acceleration they're looking for out of that. And Robertson might have been able to pull back just a length or something like that and keep himself in this race.
Fred.
We can see there's still strong positioning to Gilmore Racing.
I still like the righty.
They're just discussing now, deciding which mark they're going to. Right turn or left turn. Jibs go up on Gilmore's boat. Pole goes down. The bowmans hold the spinnaker and just drop it at the last moment to keep the speed up in the boat all the way until they turn up into the wind.
And drop.
3, 2, 1, diving.
So there goes Gilmore Racing.
A little bit of a late drop on Gilmore's boat, but that's okay in lighter winds to still have the spinnaker sort of half up as you're going into the wind.
So I know Safuku on the bow. Lots of people have some level of assistance in trying to get that spinnaker down the hatch in record time. I know Safuku always electing to do all those moves himself. Occasionally that does mean he's got that little bit more to do on the front.
Get that halyard out of there. Yeah, geez, the halyard. The halyard, come on, guys.
A little bit of tension on Peter Gilmore's boat there. Phil Robertson went to the other mark, so just hoping to get the maximum leverage, go split as far as he can, hope for a bit of a wind shift and a bit of a gain with the leverage of being a further distance apart with the different gates.
Yep.
2, 1, and up.
Okay, coming up.
Gilmore's still comfortably in front though here.
If anything, I think Peter may well have extended around those marks. For me, Peter picking the closer of the two gates. And I think that really showing in the lead and distance between these two boats. Peter Gilmore and Gilmore Racing now, I think 6-7 lengths ahead. So he started with a small edge. He really ekes that out at the top of the beat, and then around the bottom mark, he's doubled or even tripled it again. And it is Peter Gilmore or Gilmore Racing showing everybody how it's done here at the Stena Match Cup. Excellent sailing from these guys, and if they keep building on these performances, I see no real reason why perhaps 2012 couldn't be the 8th Stena Match Cup Sweden that, you know, Peter Gilmore manages to close out. I think he won the first one certainly before you or I were match racing at every level. It may have been 12 hours before you were even in a boat. It was a fair whack ago.
It's incredible, his statistic. To win an event 7 times is just huge. So I haven't even been here 7 times. That's an incredible statistic that Peter's got, and you can just see it, his experience with the way he treats the course and the steering and the momentum control he has of the boat, the attitude he has with his crew is just that you can see why he's such a winner.
One, up.
He certainly has his moments of being world class. But we all know how easy it is to communicate with your crew when you're 7 or 10 lengths in front of the other guy and it's all going well. I think the real measure of a skipper is how you communicate with your crew when you're behind. And it will be interesting to see whether we see that unfold at any point this afternoon here at the Stena Match Cup.
Actually, just as you say that, Shawsey, I think Robertson has made some small gains. So Gilmore was definitely 6, 7 lengths in front. Now I'd say it's maybe 4 or 5 lengths in front. So could just make Peter a little bit nervous. Both just tacking up. No one's really tacking on top of each other. They're trying to pick their own shifts. I mean, there's quite a few shifts out here for the teams to get and to get an advantage with.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Okay, stand by. Helms down. Tacking on. One. Up.
Knocking now, he's going to come out in front of us soon.
Ease, Terry. Yeah. Yeah.
So Gilmore will be one more tack and then into this top mark. Phil Robertson's got to do 2 more tacks. And is got a lot of work to do. It's been a bit of a miracle if he could pull something back here, Shawsey.
Yeah, you never know. We've seen it all before, but certainly Peter Gilmore and Yanmar Racing do a nice job of shutting down the options at the top of this beat. Phil Robertson really left with no option but to go the wrong way or go the same way as Yanmar Racing, the 7-time Stena Match Cup champion Peter Gilmore.
Nice work, guys.
And Peter Gilmore now coming up to the top mark. Phil Robertson's just going to have to watch on.
Be interesting just to see how well Gilmore pulls off this manoeuvre. The tack set.
Go, Fred.
Most crew work required of any of our manoeuvres.
Yeah. Okay.
See Phil Robertson just trying to stay high on that ley line, just trying to give Peter Gilmore just that one extra thing to think about as he exits the mark.
Pole's already up on Robertson's boat in the tack. Adam Martin on the bow there. The pitman, Sam Bell, starts on the hoist and then Adam catches up. Jib goes down as soon as the spinnaker sort of half gets filled and not caught with the spinnaker.
So nothing really wrong with either of those two sets as they exit the top mark and start this final leg down to the finish of this semi-final matchup.
It's really good pressure.
Gilmore's still got 7 lengths.
Sorry?
To a healthy and strong lead.
Really good pressure.
I think he's sailing along in some nice pressure now. I suspect we'll see him just ride that all the way out to the right-hand side of that gust and then just pop a little jibe in, probably in about 20 seconds, and just lay down towards that finish.
Gilmore's actually matching the jibe that Phil Robertson started.
Up. Yeah.
So Phil in a good position to attack, but he's arguably
Too far
ahead for that really to make any effect.
Okay.
Gilmore's almost laying the finishing line, so it looks like he doesn't have to even jibe to go to the finish here. So
anyway, it's about
Robertson not affecting the wind of Gilmore. He jibed first, hoping for something different. Gilmore matched the jibe and is pointing straight at the finishing line, unaffected. Gilmore, Robertson boys just have to finish this one and really almost start planning the next one. It's a bit of a game over.
I think, as you say, I think one of the most interesting things here will possibly be to contrast, you know, the interview with Phil Robertson on the conclusion of this match with that of Ian Williams. You know,
that's a good point, Shawsey.
Just to really see, for me, you know, Phil a natural bouncer backer, if you like, and it'll be interesting to see. I think we'll see, despite the rain, despite basically being completely cleaned out by Peter Gilmore here, he hasn't really made a mistake, but they've just really been outsailed at every point all the way around.
It was. I really hope he has that same confidence. It was just that first top section of the first leg where Gilmore picked up a shift and then sailed quite smoothly. The rest of the race,
Okay,
Robertson, I felt
stand
like
by to
was
jibe.
definitely in it and has been
Jiving.
making pretty good calls, and we saw the manoeuvring is great. So if he can,
One.
you know, do
Up.
the same to Gilmore the other way, we could have a race around with Gilmore behind. So
Yeah.
can't wait to see that interview, Shawsy.
No, it'll be interesting to see. But right now, it's all about Yanmar Racing. Peter Gilmore, Yaji Thierry, Fred,
Good
and
job,
Safuku
guys.
up on the front. This their year 2012. I know,
Amazingly powerful
really
lap,
looking,
tight
having
to
had
lead.
a couple of years where they
Well, I
haven't
mean, we weren't
really
even
made
tight, you know,
the
so-
impression on the Alpari World Match Racing Tour that they'd have liked. I know they are looking to this year do a better job of it, and this is perhaps where it starts. This is where their assault on the Alpari World Match Racing Tour perhaps really starts in vengeance. And they've sailed well here. Yanmar Racing and Peter Gilmore, the winners in this first semi-final match-up between these two skippers here at the Stena Match Cup. So I'm hoping to join Phil Robertson for an interview, just to really see what he made of that. I know we get nothing but positiveness from Peter, but I want to see what Phil Robertson's got to say, having you know, perhaps not had the race any of us would have liked.
Just a side note here, Shawsy, the rain is really coming down right now.
Yeah. I've never been happier to be in a little wooden box on top of the castle and photo out on the water. I think we'd both like to be out there in the semis, but actually right now in the driving rain, I'm feeling pretty smug here, tucked up in my little wooden box.
Thanks, Paul.
You know what, though? There's still a really solid crowd of spectators out there watching and bearing that rain.
Yeah, they're certainly tougher than us. So I think we're going to Phil Robertson now out on the racecourse.
A little bit of a shame. We came off the line in an okay position, but we just lost the. Sorry, about to hit a stick. We just lost the left there. It was really difficult conditions. We couldn't really feel, not much fuel in the boat. It was a little bit light and raining really hard. So no woolies to go by, and it was a very tough first beat. And he just got a really nice shift out of the left in the end and crossed us halfway up the beat. And it was we were fighting hard to come back from that, and never really got back into it after that. So yeah, he sailed well and hard one to take. But thanks, Phil.
So certainly no wrists being slit on board Phil Robertson's boat after that race. I think he's positive and ready for another match-up.
I enjoyed that. I feel like he analysed that race quite well, and just sort of didn't get down about the result.
So now I think we're going to join Peter Gilmore with some reaction to that emphatic win from Yanmar Racing.
Well, it was a tight race for us there in the early stages. It was very difficult once we came off the start line with all the woolies that we get to steer off clagged onto the sail. And but the boys did a lovely job of picking the
semi-final
slowly,
of Flight 2.
Very difficult one to work out on the water. But I can just imagine old Simon Shaw up there in the commentary box, probably got the heater on right now, enjoying himself.
Yeah, it's all campfires and marshmallows up here. Peter Gilmore, out there you can see the water running down his face. I know he certainly likes his creature comforts. I think, part of the wonder of match racing, it's no Volvo Ocean race, this circuit, and it's quite unusual. We do go to some wonderful locations where the weather can be nice, and it does affect some people more than others, driving rain and conditions like this, but it certainly didn't appear to affect Peter Gilmore's performance out there on the racecourse.
No, he was all over it. Very impressive with the way he was quite smooth with the boat. I liked his start. It seemed like he was, set up for the longest tack. Took the high percentage, low risk manoeuvres. So Phil Robertson on the back foot with that start, with the little cross in the about 2 minutes out in the pre-start. and Gilmore able to take the left side, which we thought was favoured. Robertson actually said in the interview that he wanted the right, and maybe that's where the mistake actually happened.
Yeah, no, I mean, Phil getting what he wanted, but ultimately he was in that match for a bunch of the time. It was really just at the top. I mean, when you see someone banking gains like that, so clinically, I mean, as you say, Phil really didn't do anything wrong, but at the same time, Peter was able to structure the race so that he could bank those gains time and time again. It was one of those ones where, on another day, someone would have just placed their boat slightly differently. You wouldn't have perceived there to be a problem. They'd have gone round neck and neck. And for me, Peter perhaps showing that experience in the upper section of that beat to position himself just to give nobody any good options. It's like, follow me or bank a loss, follow me or bank a loss. And if you keep asking that question to somebody, eventually they start throwing chance to the wind and they start banking their own losses. And that was, the maturity, that Peter Gilmore showed. What I wonder is, as the rain's been driving down and those other two boats have been sailing around, watching that match, where will Ian Williams and his team be? Now, they're obviously a bit disheartened. I would hope that the consummate professionals, they'll be have themselves back at a high octane, high energy level, and really ready to come and really bring the thunder to this next match.
Yeah, well, that's right. Ian Williams and Bjorn Hansen get the chance to watch the other semi-final. It's a staggered start, so one race at a time, rather than maybe during the round robins where we might do it on 5-minute intervals. And so they would have seen where Peter Gilmore made those gains and where the subtleties of the wind and the changes of the shoreline effects of the race course. And we'd see Ian probably analyse that. I'd say that you'd probably be favouring the left side, rock side, as the side to go.
Yeah. Well, we're talking about that next matchup. Lindsay Hooper is with Bjorn Hansen. Okay. Unfortunately, we were a little caught up in our thing, and Lindsay's now having to get off. They are getting ready for the next match. I think we're getting ready for sound signals. So it is that sail-off between Bjorn Hansen and Ian Williams. I'm really fascinated to see how this plays out. It is going to be a question of timing. Tick-tock, tick-tock. That's how this match racing game works.
Close. Williams got pace, clearly a collision. What are the umpires going to do about that? Can Hansen get his bow down and across the line? Mursky squeezes around Hansen towards the finish. He's got to complete his penalty. This is do or die. Williams is staying close. Hansen's got to avoid. Down towards the finish, the blue flag. Bruni wins. Williams wins. Stena Match Cup sweep.
So we're back here for Stena Match Cup Sweden, the third leg of the Alpari World Match Racing Tour. The 5-minute flag is flying on the committee boat, and we are getting ready to go into our second round of these semi-finals. Ian Williams against Bjorn Hansen. First blood went to Bjorn Hansen. He managed to, in an epic battle with lead changes galore, defeat Ian Williams in the first matchup. It's going to be interesting to see how this next one goes. Ian Williams picking himself up, coming back into this match. We've seen these guys racing in finals before already this year. Here we are in a semi-final with the same skippers racing each other. It's ready to go. I'm looking forward to it. Torvar Mursky, what are your predictions for this match?
You can never ask a commentator that. Obviously, you've just outlined how they're just about to enter the 4 minutes into the pre-start. This is the jostle for the start. They get the good opportunity here to maybe, I think Ian Williams this time will make sure he does not collect a penalty.
Yeah.
You know, that was quite costly for him in the last one, and we'll probably see a much more structured, smooth start from Ian. Bjorn Hansen, someone's just fallen in the water.
Yeah, there we go. Disaster strikes on board Bjorn Hansen's boat. We saw them looking to get their weight up. As you enter the pre-start area, you often try and get onto that windward side to try and help steer the boat down into the pre-start box. But I think one of Bjorn's team getting a little over-enthusiastic, getting a little bit towards that windward side. Disaster strikes. I'm sure he's soaked already anyway, but he's over the side. He's back on board. No harm done. But I'm sure something like that can really shake the concentration and the focus of everybody. So I hope he's okay. But let's go on and see how the pre-start unfolds.
That's incredible. I think it might have been Philip Cargoul. It's definitely going to fluster them. This is the manoeuvre Ian Williams almost got a penalty for before.
Yeah, executing it well that time. Both boats sailing underneath the committee boat over towards that right-hand side.
Bjorn Hansen's team will just wait and see their attitude, see if they're a bit flustered after such an unexpected, situation.
Certainly won't be what they expected. I think we're going to see Ian Williams absolutely on the front foot here. That's his style to come back out fighting. And here we go. It's a big turn from Ian Williams. He's trying, I think, to dial Bjorn Hansen all the way back up. So we were expecting aggression, and there we saw it. A huge turn from Ian Williams and GAC Pindar.
So Ian managing to get far enough ahead in that pre-start to turn back and attack Bjorn.
Now, has he got enough distance again? That is the question. He's going for it again. The boats generally get closer and closer when you keep doing this.
Ooh.
And as they exit, only 8 inches between the two transoms of these Swedish 37 racing yachts.
So we've got about 2 minutes to go here. They'll be starting to think about last circles and setting up to race back to the line here. Ian Williams here on board. They're deciding which start they would like, since they're kind of in control here, Shorzy.
Yeah, so Ian Williams in the lead. He will elect the lead time. Looks to me to be about 40 seconds away from that committee boat, perhaps 3 lengths above. Ian Williams will be sort of inputting that into that empirical table of his and deciding when it's time to go back.
This is the final, about 1:30 to go here. Bjorn thinks that it's going to take too long to follow Ian, so he's jibed on top and is trying to roll over and to lead the charge back to the start line. Ian Williams is going to try and push Bjorn Hansen to be early for the start line and maybe take the right or the right side of the course.
So excellent sailing from both skippers as we come back towards. It looks like Bjorn Hansen's actually done a pretty nice job of snatching the lead back off Ian Williams there. He is below boat ley line, I think, as both boats turn back up. Probably onto what will be their final approaches, bar a little bit of speed management into the actual line itself.
I actually like Bjorn Hansen's position here. I would prefer to be going left. Ian Williams is pretty much got no option but to go to the right here.
Can we get to ley line? Yeah.
Okay, jib down.
Ready?
Here we go, there's the luff from Bjorn.
Jib down.
I think we're going to have a split in this start, Shorzy.
Can we lay the boat?
So the question mark here, can Ian Williams get up to a position where he can lay on port?
20 seconds here. So now they're going to split off.
Racing guys, looking at attack. East main.
Ian Williams, I think he's going to try and avoid attack sailing over the top of the boat. I'm
he's
sure he's going to be able to. He is able to start on port, which is I think what he was looking for, but he has to do attack. He can't clear the boat.
I think Bjorn Hansen's happy with his start. A little bit more speed off the line there. Ian had to tack. Bjorn,
here we go. They're coming
a little
back
bit
together.
ahead here, just tacking to Lewin. Ian's got a piece here.
Happy to tack away? Here we go, tacking. Say again.
Okay, it's very close. Now we're going to see a bit more of a split to see which side has more pressure, Shorzy.
Okay, let's just settle this down.
So for me there, Ian Williams doing a nice job of that. He would have been slightly down speed into that dial, but managing that quite well. I think he did a nice job of the build, getting the trim right out of that tack away from the committee boat. And when those boats came back together there, pretty much even speeds again, despite having done that extra tack.
Yeah, definitely impressive by Ian to be able to force Bjorn to have to tack off, to get to that situation where he can call starboard on Bjorn off the start line. Bjorn having a bit more speed off the start. Ian on the back, but still managing to get to that situation.
See tactician Bill Hardesty on board. GAC Pindar is looking left, looking right, trying to sniff out that little extra pressure as this rain rolls down the course here at the Stena Match Cup. Makes it that bit harder to read the ripples on the surface of the water. Sometimes you can be looking at patches of heavier rain rather than patches of heavier breeze.
Bjorn Hansen's happy to extend all the way to the rocks. He is still on starboard. He hasn't tacked to come back towards Ian Williams yet. So he's not happy that he's got the best wind to come back towards the cross.
Now we have seen before this left side, I think certainly statistically weighing out as being the better option. We are in quite changeable conditions now though, so for me, those statistics perhaps not the critical factor as these boats come together. Ian Williams for me looking stronger than the last time we looked at the Peter Gilmore match when they were coming up in a similar position on the race course. Ian looks quite high and relatively pressured up. These boats come together, I think it's advantage Williams.
Ian Williams picking up a bit of a shift there, and his advantage Ian Williams. Ian's tacking first, which means he's
now Bjorn Hansen, he puts his bow down, he's going to try and get his stern in below Ian Williams and initiate a luff.
Coming up a little.
He's trying to luff. Now the question is, can he get a piece? He didn't have enough.
That's a little bit costly for Bjorn Hansen there to go for that position underneath Ian, try and luff him out when Ian's tacked in front and not get it.
So those specific new rules on this Alpari World Match Racing Tour, no establishment of the overlap can happen any which way, and if you're the leeward boat you can luff the windward boat no matter what. So that's a big game changer into 2012, and the crew's really just getting a feel for it. We saw a lot of people being caught out in the first two regattas where people were getting pieces that they weren't expecting, and for me at this regatta I've seen two people go for that now and it be tremendously costly the both times they've gone for it. We saw Keith Swinton in the quarterfinals going for it on Peter Gilmore and eventually I think losing what was Even's position to be 5, maybe even 6 lengths behind at the top mark, having gone for that and then had to suck the dirty air all the way into the top and ultimately having to do 2 tacks in the end. It was a disaster for him, and for me, Bjorn Hansen giving away a strong position there, perhaps a boat length and a boat length, maybe even a boat length and a half of distance, going for something that ultimately wasn't on. And now it is an advantage Ian Williams and GAC Pindar as we come up this first beat in this second matchup.
This has been very impressive by Ian, capitalising on that mistake by Bjorn. Some inexperience with the new rule and maybe some subtleties with the boat and the new rule. And Ian, we saw after that situation, they had their jibs down. Just Ian was waiting for Bjorn to choose a direction to go, port or starboard. They had their jibs down waiting, and then he matched, and he's just capitalised on that and got a little length lead on Bjorn Hansen here.
There we see
actually, Bjorn Hansen actually doing a nice job just at this final as we're talking here, Shorzy, to get right back onto the transom of Williams.
Okay, coming down. Go hoist.
There we go, hoisting on Williams's boat. Bjorn Hansen follows just now. See how their set goes. There's the pop. The jib goes down. It's both very similar sets there. Good sets. Bjorn's about 3/4 of a length behind.
And so the critical factor for me is, in some ways, we're just looking at more of the same. A real ding-dong between these two boats. Virtually no distance whatsoever separating them. Small differences defining who's in the lead and who's behind. Just that tiny mistake by Bjorn or the way that it played out, just meaning he didn't get that luff when he went for it. And now he is behind, but absolutely nothing between them really as we come down this run. Bjorn Hansen in an excellent position to attack Ian Williams as we come down this run.
I noticed, Shorzy, that Ian Williams just asked about what his crew about what they thought about the gate. So that already from just out of the top mark, Ian Williams was planning how he was going to sail the downwind to the gate. Bjorn's jibed here first. Ian's let him go, so Ian must be planning his route down to one of those gates.
How's it look, Bill?
So I know Bjorn Hansen of the Metronome sailing team.
Comes into the gate as well.
But it's Ian Williams for me that is the metronome, the machine as he comes around that top mark, processing all that data and constructing his positioning into the bottom mark. He knows exactly what he's doing all the time.
He's a very formulated sailor.
It makes him very, very difficult to beat when he's on song, because he genuinely just doesn't really make a mistake. But what we have seen so far this season is, if anybody, it's Bjorn Hansen that's been able to get under his skin, crack that shell of decision making and slightly frustrate it, and perhaps lead to those execution errors that can creep into Ian Williams' game. And so as we come down to the bottom mark, the wind softening even more, we can see another heavy patch of rain moving down the racecourse towards
Bjorn
the boats.
Hansen has managed to take some of Ian Williams' air there.
Happy with this mark, Bill?
Ian's going left gate, Bjorn's going to go right gate. Rain's really heavy
Dropping
here,
3,
and I think
2,
Bjorn has
1,
just managed to make a
dropping.
little gain here. Actually, Bjorn Hansen's just jibed again, so Bjorn Hansen might also be following to the left gate.
I think we're seeing a big shift possibly coming down the racecourse. We saw the sails almost inverting on these race boats. For me, I think this is a relatively big change. So there goes Bjorn Hansen. He's going to roll away out of this bottom mark. Ian Williams will follow as we track back across to this left-hand side.
I think Bjorn's done quite a nice job just here, just to keep in it.
Considering they went round the same mark, Bjorn Hansen doing a nice job of exiting the mark and then getting some clear air. But it's not going to last for long. Ian Williams in a great position to attack Bjorn Hansen.
This is what happens when you go around the same gate. The lead boat often gets the chance to force the other boat to do more manoeuvres. So Bjorn Hansen having to do a double tack there, a slow manoeuvre, and Ian should be able to capitalise a length or so out of that.
I can hear Jerry Mitchell there instructing Ian Williams, we've got to get going, we've got to get this boat fast. They're hardestly calling the tack. The machine's still firing. Now Parker casting off the jibbers. GAC Pindal rolls back out that right-hand side to track across with Bjorn Hansen. Back under the rocks here on the island shore here in Marstrand.
Now Parker on Williams' team just calling gains to us. So he thinks they've just made a little extra gain from the last situation.
Okay, bouncing a lot. Yeah. Attacking now. It is long starboard, yeah, Bill. I'm happy with it, but yeah.
So there goes Ian Williams tacking onto the line of Bjorn Hansen, bouncing him off to the right.
Okay, coming up now.
Slightly long starboard, but I think Ian happy to be bouncing Bjorn Hansen off to this side for now. As we reach perhaps the midpoint on this beat, the wind has moved round to the left as we've been watching the racing today.
Time when we're happy to cross, but whatever you think.
And I think perhaps removing the gains up on this left-hand side, this left side now going from a convergent shore to it just being pretty much straight off the land.
I think that's a pressure lift, so I think it'll be on both the other.
Bjorn Hansen not on ley line here, so we'll have 2 more tacks. Ian Williams potentially could just have 1 more tack. See if they've gained from the leverage of, or see who's won out on this last shift as they come together for this almost final cross of this race, basically.
Is that all? Have you got it all? What's you thinking? Ley line? I think it's too close, mate. Your call, but
Bjorn Hansen, it looks like he is close. This might be forcing Ian Williams to do the extra tacks as well.
So here comes Ian Williams. He's going to try and tack to cover, and we may well see a luff from Bjorn Hansen.
Okay, we will see Ian Williams do the 2 extra tacks. So Bjorn Hansen caught up and is forced in to do the 2 extra tacks. Bjorn Hansen will go to the ley line here, and will be right on Ian Williams' transom.
Yeah.
So this is interesting for me. Ian Williams is going to be bow forward into this mark, and he's going to have to complete that tack right on the button of Bjorn Hansen as we round here.
That's quite an impressive job that Bjorn Hansen's team have done there.
I think we saw, in some ways, this perhaps telling. We saw, Peter Gilmore in that last match really construct a game from nothing. And that classic example of almost the opposite happening
you know, Ian unable to really capitalise on his lead position, and Bjorn Hansen rounding right behind. But most crucially, Ian Williams is rounding ahead, and we are now on our final run to the finish.
Fast, get everything fast, please.
So Bjorn Hansen just carried a bit more momentum there, doing the smaller manoeuvre. Ian Williams had to do the tack set, but Ian did a fantastic set. Got the spinnaker up quickly and managed, you know, to minimise the loss of that extra manoeuvre. Bjorn Hansen right on the transom here. I suspect he'll be jibing at the same time as Ian Williams, trying to take his wind and roll over like he did in the race before.
He's rolling off in the jibe. Where's the bias? Still a bit of boat? Yeah. Yeah, okay. When we start getting close to ley line, we need to think about working depth, yeah?
So Bill Hardesty there, I think slightly fancying the right, of course. That's left of picture as we look at the screen. So favouring carrying on, and I think that's why we're seeing GSA Pindar track that far down the racecourse. The risk obviously is the further they go, the more likely Bjorn may be able to actually jibe, roll and get around the front. We've seen him do that once before in the last match.
Coming up, coming up.
Okay.
Now here we go, this is the play. So Ian Williams coming up onto the breeze. He's going to luff Bjorn Hansen. Was in some ways a replay of the last match. Bjorn able to get down inside, and then he's going to get round the top. Now last time we didn't think he'd make it. He did make the jibe.
Bjorn Hansen doing a fantastic job there, jibing on, taking Ian's air, and he's rolling over here. But is he going to be able to roll all the way and be able to make that jibe or lay the finishing line?
For me, then the difference between this time and last time is it's Ian Williams that's managed to get that ear clear behind and manage his speed through that process.
No way. Don't hit him yet.
And for me,
are we getting to 2 here or not? Bill, have a look at that.
For me, Ian Williams in much better controlling position than he was last time, and I think still with the ascendancy as we come down towards the finish.
British! We've been
okay, I think there was contact there.
We've been overlapped the whole time.
This could be a penalty on Bjorn.
We've been overlapped the whole time. Driving here, guys. Driving here.
Bjorn, that was an attempt for the race win by penalty.
So there's the yellow flag.
Okay,
That's
Bjorn got the lead,
Bjorn
but at a
Hansen.
cost.
I just want the pole on. We're going to be good here, guys.
So Ian Williams has managed to outfox Bjorn Hansen in the bottom of that run, managing to sell the penalty onto Bjorn.
That's race to Ian Williams. That's an awesome effort. Bjorn Hansen doing an awesome jibe and roll over Ian Williams, but didn't keep clear.
Great job, Matty.
Receiving a penalty, and Ian Williams going through to take the win to even up the scores, Shorzy.
Yeah, so that 1-1. Ian Williams from Yanmar Racing.
Keep shouting at him, Matty.
Bjorn Hansen not happy. And I think Ian Williams and his team perhaps commenting that although the race is over, there was no point continuing to yell at the umpire.
But when he's in the middle of our boat back here. Yeah. I agree
Bjorn
on
Hansen's
that.
disputing.
So when does he start to become a windward boat? When he's just straight behind us, when his spinner can touch. Is he windward or leeward at that time? Yeah, he's leeward, and he's coming up and he's straight behind us. So what you mean is, so what you are saying is that if I'm leeward boat, I'm passing over up here, still with overlap all the time. I'm still leeward boat when I'm up here. Is that what you're saying? But his bow was here. Here was the bow. So is he then as...
You tell him, Bjorny.
Okay, but that's what you're saying. So if my bow is here, I'm leeward bow. I'm moving the bow up here. Am I still leeward?
It's a very animated question there, Shorzy.
Yeah.
When they don't understand.
It's typical of sailors to not agree with the umpires, isn't it?
It's certainly an interesting one, and I think really what I got from that interview, or not interview, I suppose, that just, monologue to the umpires while they were sitting there and, and really taking it in was yes, the disappointment, but the utter focus and determination of Bjorn Hansen. He is so fired up to win this event. He's absolutely firing on all cylinders. His blood is running red. He's got his war axe out and his sword, shield, spade, the whole kitchen sink that he's going to throw at Ian Williams. Nothing is going to try and get between him and the final of this Stena Match Cup and hopefully the trophy. And it's great to see him really here and a fiery competitor. For too many years we saw Bjorn Hansen of old just never quite making it, never quite having that edge to actually win, to actually compete. And here he is on the 2012 Alpari World Match Racing Tour. The gloves are off. He is fighting to win this circuit this year. He's fighting to win the Stena Match Cup, and he's not taking any prisoners. And I think it's great to see. It's great for the sport, and it's great for the Alpari World Match Racing Tour.
Absolutely awesome, man. You just see him this year compared to other years. He's got a little bit more confidence about his swagger. He's rolling around with a really big grin on him, and you can see he's got a lot more confidence about him. And to see him argue and with the umpires like that, I think is a good thing going into the rest of this, where he really believed that he had that and he was in control of it. And it was like
he was in front, wasn't he? And I suppose we know. Bjorn Hansen, we're lucky enough to know him very well and having sailed against him for a number of years. And, I think we'd both say he's a very nice, kind, gentle guy in some respects. And that very uncharacteristic in some ways, that level of aggression. There are people who's within their just general personality are slightly more fiery, slightly more aggressive, slightly more edgy. And that is really just pure competitive passion spilling out of him at the end of that match. And in that respect, I suppose that's why I think it's great to see.
Going back to the actual incident, Bjorn Hansen was querying whether he was the leeward boat or the windward boat when the actual incident happened. It seemed that Ian Williams' team were actually talking about it and actually quite onto it the way it was, and the umpires seemed to read it the same way Ian did. So Bjorn Hansen perhaps just not seeing it the same.
Yeah, and I think Bjorn was so focused on, as is often the case, perhaps the sailing of the incident. They were concentrating on the roll, they were concentrating on getting clear, and perhaps not on the idiosyncrasies of the moment and whether they were still overlapped or whether they weren't, and how that, although it doesn't matter how they overlaps formed anymore, perhaps the detail of the rules. Whereas I think Ian was ultimately he was strategically letting him roll there. He had no real option but to do so, but he was just trying to manage that from a rules perspective, whereas Bjorn was just trying to keep the hammer down and just trying to sail fast and get round. And ultimately I think Bjorn perhaps falling foul of not quite the same read of the rules and the interpretation of the rules as Ian Williams and the umpiring team.
I think Bjorn Hansen, though, if he did read it the same way as the umpires and did do it properly, maybe just stayed a little bit further away from Ian, I still favoured Bjorn Hansen to win that race. So it's a little bit unfortunate for Bjorn to maybe have that little buffer of risk there. He just didn't quite have it in, and he may have been able to allow that to have a little bit more space there and still get the lead and the win. But so a little bit unfortunate for Bjorn for that race. But definitely impressive that he rolled over and rolled over and got into that race.
So there we saw Bjorn Hansen, a nice guy, but also an angry guy. What is match racing?
penalty. Remember, this is do or die.
So we're back here at the Stena Match Cup. I think we have confirmation of the results from the last matches. Bjorn Hansen from Sweden, the Mekonomen sailing team, they are 1-1 with Ian Williams from Great Britain representing GAC Pindar. We're about to watch our final semi-final matchup between Peter Gilmore of Australia, Yanmar Racing Team. He'll be coming up against Phil Robertson from New Zealand of Wacker Racing Team, and Peter Gilmore from Australia with that 1-0 advantage here. Now, what we'll be looking for is how will Phil Robertson comes back as we come up towards the entry and that 4-minute gun.
Yeah.
So Peter Gilmore from Australia and Yanmar Racing, he has that starboard advantage. He will be dialing up Phil Robertson.
Peter Gilmore coming in from the starboard side. Little advantage with the dial up, having the right side.
Yeah. Main on a bit, Fred.
I think the wind has stayed quite stable since the last race.
I think so.
Still about 8 knots.
Yeah, yeah, certainly sounds about right. It's certainly some of the lighter conditions we've had over the day. You can see both skippers using hand signals to direct their bowmen of where they want to position the boat. So using the jib to steer the bow up and down into the wind. Peter Gilmore racing on board Alpari.
Phil Robertson actually able to turn around out of that dial-up and jibe behind Peter Gilmore, so getting out of the grip of Peter Gilmore in the dial-up.
So that restart advantage to Yanmar Racing negated as both boats lead across towards the right-hand side of the starting box. This is the final opportunity for bowman to look back, make a final checks on the bias, and then we move into the game of time and distance. Safuku on the bow of Yanmar, he'll be calling the sailing time back to that committee boat end. Fred on the main sheet, he will be calling the ley lines and their distance above the ley lines back to the committee boat and to the pin, depending on their starting position. And the skipper, Peter Gilmore, and Phil Robertson, they'll be processing all this information and trying to position their boat to the best advantage as the pre-start dance begins between these two boats and circling ensues. It's game on here at the Stena Match Cup.
Max trim, Kiri. He's got himself in a shit position.
So Peter there managing to circle and get under the stern of Phil Robertson.
Yeah. Pinned, I think.
And with
final approach, Jawsy.
1 minute 10 to go, I think Yanmar Racing with a strong controlling position over Phil Robertson.
Phil Robertson is early for the line here. Peter Gilmore is in a powerful position.
Now Peter Gilmore will be just trying not to get overlapped here, but trying to keep tight, prevent Phil Robertson from both bearing away, but also be able to tack under him if he tacks. Centimetres between the two boats there as Peter Gilmore dives to windward of Phil Robertson, trying to keep that control.
This could be interesting. There could be a little change here. Peter Gilmore might not be, well, Phil Robertson may not be late for the start anymore. And Peter Gilmore might be late. 20 seconds.
They're actually pretty near to the start line there. It's pretty hard to tell from our commentary position. But there, Phil Robertson just diving off onto port. I think Peter feeling that
if there's no penalty here, it's definitely advantage Phil Robertson.
I agree with that. And it's a green flag.
Phil Robertson winning that start, getting Peter Gilmore all bunched up and slow. Big advantage to Phil Robertson off the start line here, Shawsy.
Great read from you, Torvar. I was watching that, and I think the key there was they got so down speed and they were dead head to win. It was just an utter failure to pull the trigger by Peter Gilmore and Yanmar Racing. At the time when they were on time for the pin, or time +5, 5 + 10, they needed to be pulling the trigger and sailing at the line, and that would have asked a terrible question of Phil Robertson. Instead, they just let that clock wind down, and they were left there, borderline with their pants down. While Phil Robertson sails off, and what was a controlling position has descended in, disaster for Yanmar Racing off this second start.
Yeah, that makes you feel pretty embarrassed being Peter Gilmore there.
But it'll be wiped from his mind.
I think he has.
Peter Gilmore and Yanmar Racing, they'll be right back into this. We're only talking a matter of lengths or so between these two boats. We can see there perhaps a length and a half of clear water between these two boats.
Okay, stand by.
And in the scheme of things, that's not really a huge amount. And let's just see whether Phil Robertson is able to really close this match out from this advantageous position off the start line.
Trim up, guys.
So Phil Robertson in the last cross tacked on top of Peter, forcing Peter to split with him. And now it's sort of Phil Robertson gets to decide how big the split is. So here we go, Phil Robertson tacking back, trying to make sure Peter Gilmore doesn't get some different wind and catch up.
Oh, that lifted. Comes down. Tacking over. Up.
Last cross was probably about a length and a half advantage to Robertson. See how this one goes.
I think perhaps
a little bit lost, boys. Sorry.
A slight gain there to Phil Robertson. Nothing crazy though, but he's eking it out bit by bit.
And there's a very good one in front.
That probably 2.5 lengths between the boats now. Now we have seen this wind swing round to the left while we've been out here, and for me that makes this upper left quite light, which is why I think we're seeing both Peter Gilmore and Yanmar Racing and the previous match really favouring that upper right hand positioning as we come up towards this top mark.
Yeah, agreed. Actually Peter Gilmore was quite high on port there. He's tacking over. He had good speed for that last sort of 20 seconds into that tack. Phil Robertson not on ley line here, so there's going to be quite a few more tacks before they get up to this top mark. See if Peter Gilmore can just keep it, minimise the tacks, go the right way and just get back onto Phil Robertson's transfer.
So this classic Phil Robertson. I think we would have seen most Alpari World Match Racing Tour skippers really face Peter Gilmore there and bounce him. And then we see Phil Robertson not afraid, just he's not going to sit on him, he's just going to sail his own race. He goes to about the right distance, the halfway point between Peter Gilmore and the mark, rolls back over, and all he's going to do now is tack onto the ley line and sail around the mark, sailing his own boat.
Got to sail in pressure.
See Peter Gilmore talking about the pressure. I think he perhaps feels, coming out to that ley line, they have sailed out of it, and I think really that was down to the wisdom and positioning of Phil Robertson, really giving Peter Gilmore no option but to carry on to the ley line. I think they perhaps expected to be bounced back to the right, but it wasn't to be. And it's Phil Robertson now opening up the clock on Yanmar Racing and Peter Gilmore around this first match. Mark 1, and turning down onto the run.
Okay, hoist. Hoist.
Crucially, I think earlier you said in the sailing instructions we are allowed to hit the marks here at the Stena Match Cup on the Alpari World Match Racing Tour. So you see the boom of Yanmar Racing bashing into the mark as they go around, but it's not an issue here. And I think a sensible change. I think both you and I could think back to some rather painful matches where
really, you know, decisions like that shouldn't really be affecting the outcome of a race.
That's right. It's just such an insignificant thing if just the boom or the sheet or the sail just nips the mark when it moves around in the waves.
And
So
it's interesting seeing, you know, despite the fact that they're allowed to hit the mark, more often than not they don't anyway, it just shows how sort of inconsequential a change like that is and how much confusion and difficulty it removes for spectators and competitors alike.
great change.
So as we come down, Gilmore Racing still in a good position to attack. They are on the inside line of Phil Robertson. Phil Robertson electing to jibe away at that top mark, so he's going to have to do at least one more jibe to get down to the gate. I would expect to see him do two and perhaps take that right-hand one. We can't see the buyers from here, so we'll be listening for any observation off the boat.
Peter Gilmore just does that. He makes it a little bit awkward for Phil Robertson here. Just soaking inside his line, preparing for the next jibe.
Okay, jibing.
So here we go. Phil Robertson rolling into the jibe. Gilmore Racing jibing to cover. It will be in perhaps a little bit of dirt, but I think Phil Robertson, Wacker Racing doing the sensible thing, just keeping the bow down, sailing their own boat, and just coming into the mark which way it goes.
Sorry, the other one. Stand by, jibing.
Phil Robertson lining up the left gate. Peter Gilmore going to jibe and take the right gate, so we're going to see a split here. Phil Robertson actually doing a nice lay line here. Good drop and turning up now. Probably about
Good gain, boys.
6
Excellent
seconds
gain.
in front. Peter Gilmore actually on his
All the
boat
way.
saying it's a good gain, so interesting to see how they'll come back out of this bottom mark here shortly.
Come on,
Yeah, I
Yards.
agree.
Come on,
I
guys.
think
go.
the key is really which one of those marks was further
Good
upwind,
work,
and it
Thierry.
may be
Good
that
try.
as they turned around the mark there, you know, Peter Gilmore thinking,
Backstay a
yes,
bit,
positive
Fred. Yeah,
thoughts. I
balls
think
a bit.
he's very good at sending positive messages to his crew and trying to keep them fired up and keep them focused. He knows how important that is, but I think he also perhaps
Yeah,
felt
I agree.
that as they turned towards that right-hand mark, that hey,
Happy to
maybe
go?
that was the favoured one. And as the boats exit the bottom mark, for me, it looking a
It's not
really
gonna
good
get
time
any better,
to be
Fred.
on port.
Stand by.
I agree,
Thumbs down.
Shawsy. I feel like
Backing home.
that Peter went a nice way, so
some out, Hall
can't
Yards.
tell exactly which gate was
Sit out
favoured
first,
from up
sit
here,
out
but
first,
maybe
though.
just
Sit
going
out
this
first,
left side,
Yards.
it was good for Peter.
You know, there's actually a part of me looking out into the racecourse now, as hard as it is to call from here, that I might almost rather be Peter Gilmore right now.
Yeah,
I still think Phil's in front, but yeah.
He's
It's
closed up
close.
for sure. As you can see, the angle of the waves, it's all left-hand phase tracking down the course, and Peter Gilmore is the boat on the left. He's in a
gonna have
position
this
to
little
exploit
puff
that.
Just in front of us, just before us.
So as these boats come together, Peter Gilmore of Gilmore Racing has closed up significantly. Now a little under
Okay, stand by.
a length of clear water between the two boats. Now I'd expect to see Phil Robertson and Wacker Racing lead this tack back across towards Peter Gilmore, try and shut down his options.
Low, just low.
There
There
we
you go,
go.
Shawsy. They've called it.
Stand by.
Phil Robertson is going to have to take in the game a bit closer and protect the right all the way going into this top mark, the starboard side. And it's probably going to be a bit bullish, this match racing, this last bit going into this top mark here, Shawsy.
Here we go. This time Phil Robertson, I think, deciding he had enough of a lead that he could actually tack onto a standard cover position, forcing Gilmore Racing and Peter Gilmore to tack back out. There is strong pressure up on that right-hand shore this time. We can see the breeze structure is very different to the top of the last beat. A strong vein of breeze running round the castle and down that right-hand side.
Ease, Thierry.
And if anything, as we get near this corner on the racecourse, I would expect that breeze to be a little bit more right-hand as we come up. And here we can see Phil Robertson has almost given Peter Gilmore the right there. Goes into a loose cover.
Stand by.
Oh,
But
Phil
is he on the ley
Robertson
line?
almost ley line. This could be painful for Peter Gilmore here. Oh no, it's not ley line, so
No.
Phil will have to tack.
But he did give himself just enough separation that he could tack. And I think that's some quite smart sailing there from Phil Robertson. He never
Agreed.
quite did one thing or the other, but he hasn't also positioned himself where Peter Gilmore can put him under pressure. He's
He's gonna
sailed
make
his
him
own
hurt
match.
going.
down.
So excellent sailing there from Phil Robertson.
Trimming up, Terry. Go hard.
But there he is. He's impossible to get rid of. Peter Gilmore. He's only 2 lengths behind.
Yeah, got you. Yeah.
You can hear Peter Gilmore responding to all the crew's calls, giving them reassurance and confidence in their decisions. That's always a good vibe for the guys, even when you're behind, just to motivate them to go further and push harder. Phil Robertson jibing straight out of that top mark.
So that an excellent hoist from both boats. The spinnakers almost setting instantaneously as they leave the top mark. Phil Robertson again opting for that early jibe.
Lovely job, Terry.
So here it is. Both boats happy with how they're sailing. But it's Phil Robertson that leads Yanmar Racing and Peter Gilmore down this final run.
I'd say we're going to see the scores even up here, Shawsy. It's straight in on starboard tack here. There's probably a small jibe onto port right down the end into the finishing line.
Yeah.
Gilmore's, you can just see, he's just searching to try and find something, but it's going to be difficult for him here, Shawsy.
It certainly is. For me, Phil Robertson just managing to get that extra bit of pressure, riding it down this right-hand shore. A really strong decision to jibe at the top there. That not easy for him. And I think Phil Robertson, that early decision to jibe, really locking down the options of Peter Gilmore. And both boats now powering down towards the finish.
Good work. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, jibing. Sorry. Get ready to jibe here, Fred. Get ready to jibe. Just don't.
Shawsy, Peter Gilmore.
So here we go, Phil Robertson coming up onto the line. We've seen both boats jibe.
Oh! This could be
Peter
Phil
Gilmore
blowing it
there,
out.
throwing the jibe onto starboard.
What can he do?
Phil Robertson, I think, trying to avoid.
What can he do?
What are the umpires going to say?
Completely
There we
missed that
go.
jibe.
Phil Robertson is through the line ahead, but we're going to see an umpire decision. For me, Peter Gilmore not quite having the space to get onto starboard, and Phil Robertson keep clear.
Oh!
So that's a yellow flag. So that's on Peter Gilmore. So there we go.
Phil
right
Robertson.
at the bottom, high drama, Torvar. What did you make of that incident?
I was just so impressed that Peter Gilmore actually made it back into that to have that chance. Sailed inside him, rolled over him, and went port starboard at Phil Robertson.
Okay, well, I mean, that was absolutely epic. I think we're going to go for results and confirmation of where we stand. Bjorn Hansen from Sweden, 1-1 with Ian Williams, GAC Pindar. Peter Gilmore from Australia, he's on 1 versus Phil Robertson from New Zealand, also on 1. So all even Stevens, both of these matches today. We've seen some fantastic racing at the bottom of the course there. That really just paying testament to what's been on offer today. It's been fantastic for the spectators. It's been fantastic for us. The Swedish Match Tour, Stena Match Cup on the Alpari World Tour. We've had some fantastic sailing. We're going to be back again tomorrow with the conclusion of the semi-finals and the finals. Thank you for today.